Hello, time for another cooking video. We're going to do a food that's really good for post-weight loss surgery patients, all the way from your early period food stages to your later just normal food stages, and that's refried beans. Yeah, you can get them out of a can and they're okay, but making it from scratch, you're just going to add whole new levels of flavor to them, and they're really easy to do. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing them from scratch anyways, or at least starting from a canned whole bean rather than the canned finished product. Your tastes are going to be so much better. You're going to love them this way. So that said, let's get to it. All right, to get refried beans, basically you need some beans. Now, normally you would use pinto beans. I'm using Adzuki beans. I'm just trying these as a little bit something different this time. The Adzuki beans are a little bit sweeter in taste than your pinto beans. Other than that, the protein is about the same. So you want about 1.5 cups of those. If you're using canned beans, you're going to get about 1.5 cups out of your can. You want to drain them and reserve the liquid. Now, I did these from dried. This is some of the liquid that they cooked in. You can either just use plain water, but if you use canned beans, drain the liquid and reserve it because you're going to need some of that later to thin it out a little bit. And then I just chopped up some onion. This is about half of an onion. Comes to about 3/4 cup. You can use white onion, yellow onion. I just happen to be using red onion this time. And some jalapeno. This is just one jalapeno I chopped up. You can also use canned or jarred jalapeno slices, just whatever you have on hand. I do keep jarred ones on hand. I just happen to have a fresh one, so I chopped that up to use instead. Couple tablespoons of butter. These aren't fat-free. You can try to do it, but I think this little bit of butter and a little bit of olive oil I'm going to use adds a lot to the flavor without adding a whole lot of fat. A lot of recipes out there, they do call for using bacon fat. I might actually try that if I had some bacon, but I don't. So you don't have to be too worried about it. The amount of fat that little bit is going to add to the overall product is not that big a deal. The advantage this way too versus the bacon fat, these are vegetarian this way if you really care about that. Personally, I don't, but I just don't have any bacon right now. So you start out, get your skillet heating. I like using a cast iron skillet for this because you're going to want to keep it warm, consistently warm throughout the whole process. And so you get that heated up and just add a little bit of olive oil. And this is what you're going to use to just saute your onions and your peppers a little bit. Now you don't want to necessarily brown them. You actually, instead of sauteing, you want to do what's actually called sweating. And that's where you just do it over low heat for a little while, just a little bit of sizzle, just to kind of bring out the flavor of the onion and the peppers. So you're going to let that go for a little bit, stir them up a little bit, and you want to get them just till the onions are soft and tender, and then you're going to add in your beans. Okay, these have been sweating for about 2 minutes now. You can see they're just getting a little translucent. You can play with the flavors in this a little bit by using different onions. White onion and yellow onion will give you a different flavor than the red onions will. Or you can play around with the peppers if you want to use something a little bit hotter, a little more heat. If you have fresh jalapenos, you can reduce the heat by not using the seeds and getting the inner membrane out of there. Or like I said, you can just use some canned peppers if you have those on hand, or jarred peppers that are already ready to go. Now you're going to add your beans and a little bit of the liquid. Now if you're using canned beans, this part's not going to take as long because the canned beans are a bit longer than the ones I cooked here for this. So basically what I'm going to do is just kind of simmer these for a while and soften up the beans some more. You want excuse me. You want the beans to be able to mash easily with the back of the spoon. Now you can see these are a little bit too firm right now. So what I'm going to do is just kind of keep these over the low heat and simmer them for a while. Let the flavors mingle while the beans soften up. And once they're ready to get nice and soft, then we'll come back to it. Okay, it's actually been about 10-12 minutes now, and beans that I had, they're starting to get nice and soft. So basically I've just been going through and mashing them with the back of the spoon as I cook them. Now you have to keep adding a little bit of liquid every once in a while. You don't want the liquid to totally cook out of there, otherwise your beans could burn. Just adding just enough to keep the pan wet, and it sort of steam cooks the beans a little bit further. You just kind of keep working on this until you get them soft and mashed to the consistency that you like. You can mash them up as smooth or as roughly as you like. And for those that are in the early stages, once you have them done and out of here, you can always transfer them to your blender and puree them really well. So you make sure that you got a nice smooth bean for those early stages after surgery. So we're going to give this probably about another 5 minutes or so and see where it's at. These are getting pretty close, so I'm going to add a little bit of salt, maybe about a teaspoon or so of kosher salt. You can also use sea salt and the butter. And then you're just going to kind of keep stirring and mashing these to mix the butter in. The butter will just add a little bit of creaminess to it. Need a little bit more liquid. Now, if you're using canned beans, you'll probably get by with just the liquid from the can, but you may have to add a little bit extra. And if that's the case, just use plain water. You can use vegetable broth. If you're not concerned about vegetarian, you can use chicken broth. Anything that you think will add a nice little extra flavor to it that you might like. So I'm going to let these go for a little bit, about a couple more minutes, get the butter melted in, and then they'll be pretty much good to go. Like I said, I might puree these a little bit in the blender just because the beans are still a little bit solid in there. But again, you can do this as much, either as mashed up or as chunky as you like, and just go to your own personal taste with that. The final product. I did take some of them out and I did puree them up a little bit with a little more of the liquid from the cooking of the beans. And I'm having it tonight with a little bit of melted cheese on top and a little bit of yogurt, or you could use sour cream, of course, and some jalapeno chicken sausage from Trader Joe's. Should be pretty good. There you go. I hope I showed you how easy it is to make your own refried beans. Play around with this a little bit. There's no real hard rule to making these. Use whatever beans you like. Maybe you want to try it with black beans or cannoli beans even. You don't need to stick with the traditional pinto beans. Change up the onions, change up the peppers a little bit to stuff to suit you. You want to make it your own recipe because you're going to enjoy it a whole lot better. And it's going to be tons better than anything you ever get straight out of a can. Protein-wise, third cup of this is about a serving size. You're going to get 7 to 10 grams of protein depending on the beans you use. So it's a nice little boost side dish, or when you're early on, like I said, puree it up good for those early puree stages. You can't beat it. Top with a little bit of cheese. In fact, I'm going to get to mine now while they're still hot. Thanks a lot. See you guys next time. Bye.